Russ, what the hell are you drinking? You drink this like blue drink, and I always think it's cold Kool-Aid, and then right before the show starts, you put it in the microwave.
Because it's 40 degrees in this garage, and I wanted to have something warm to drink. So I'm drinking warm blue raspberry, actually.
All right, let's jump into it. This is True First. All right, Russ, we're here to chat about True First, the first appearances in comic books that are kind of first appearances, but they're not. They're the appearances that when you go on eBay to look at what your first appearance key is going for, and then you see all these other listings of other books that are selling that say this is the first appearance, not the one you just spent all this money for. We got some books to chat with you about.
We do, yes.
Comic Fam.
That's Comic Tom.
I'm Comic Tom. That's Comic Fam. You're the Sensei, Russ. And we have to talk about Kid Loki. So hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Let's jump into it because we have issue number 617, first appearance of Kid Loki, made the top 10 list a few weeks ago. Probably going to be making it again soon because we have word of a Loki show in production. However, we found out that it's not the actor you think is going to be in the show.
I had actually heard that they were going to try and pull like a Tron and have Hiddleston come in and just kind of like de-age him so he'd be 14.
Is that what you thought they were going to do?
Would that be so creepy?
That'd be the
I
creepiest
can
thing.
hardly watch Jeff Bridges in that movie. I mean, it was really
was rough.
disturbingly creepy to watch him. Now, it's a little different when you watch like Hank Pym in the Iron Man movies and they kind of make Michael Douglas look younger. That's a little bit better, but yeah, no, Jeff Bridges in the Tron movie.
Wow, all the Lord of the Rings movies, I just went through those again. They did a hell of a job aging these people. It was awesome.
No, it's good.
Total side note. But anyways, Kid Loki. The reason why that book's hot is because we're going to see a Kid Loki show. And if it's not going to be an adult Loki, then what is it going to be? Well, it's going to be Kid Loki. But here's the thing. This Kid Loki that we're talking about in 617, this is going to be a tough backstory to build in. So it's not going to technically be the same Loki, but 617 is his first appearance.
Right.
We also have to give a shout out. You mentioned, it's interesting you referenced Tron. That was unplanned because I put a note on here to mention the Tron variant because that Tron variant of issue number 617 is super hot.
Oh, nice.
$40. Anyways, so look out for 617 and look out for the Tron variant.
That's
but
funny.
Topher over at CBSI, he found out that maybe that isn't the first appearance of Kid Loki because in issues number 615 and issues 616, that's two different books, we see flashbacks. See, in 615, Thor is having a little bit of a memory. He's in the middle of the field and he's thinking hard. And there's a panel that shows him, a younger version of him, and a young version of Loki. So right out the gate, that is a first appearance in comic books right there at 615.
Okay.
But it gets a little worse because 616 has another flashback appearance where Thor is looking into like this water and he's seeing the past and it shows Kid Loki in a vision as well. So we have two appearances that predate the cover appearance. That is spiking as the first appearance.
That's crazy. And I mean, there's some great variants of 615 and 616. There's a Joe Quesada variant of 615 that was a 1 in 25. That's going for like $60 right now. And then the 1 in 15 vampire variant.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah, it's a cool one. Yeah.
And it's affordable. It's like $10. Yeah. So I think what we got to do when we're talking about True First, because here's the thing, these true first appearances, they're affordable. Like some people online, they know, and they'll put that this is the first cameo in flashback or first full appearance. But it's the rare issues. It's those scarce ones. It's that second print of Captain Marvel 17. It's that random issue that isn't getting any love, but in the future, maybe it will.
Well, and my thing is that I love when I see True First of this is the first time that, you know, George R.R. Martin got published at the age of 14 and we wrote a fan letter to Fantastic Four. I mean, something like that is like, this is super cool. So, I mean, I'll pull out a comic book and go, hey, this is the first time, you know, Rob Liefeld did something, but it was a fan letter that he wrote into this comic and he drew this thing. And you're like, oh, that's super cool.
And it's technically the first time it happened. So
Totally.
It's a key moment. Maybe it's not a mega key,
Right.
but it's a key moment. Now, something else that's kind of fun that I am experiencing, and I know Topher knows that this is happening because we read all the articles there.
We do.
We go through these, and it's fun to see us make the list. It's so strange. I don't talk to Topher. I don't have like an ongoing conversation via text message talking about True First. I get the articles like everybody else, and I make my script and I use it as reference. I link him off in the description. Go say hi to CBSI. And sometimes when we make a video, the next week I look and there's comic books that are added in the article based off of stuff we've talked about.
Which is funny.
This is incredibly flattering. So thank you so much. But you mentioned liking the gummy bears.
Yes, the Amazing Adventures of the Gummy Bears, bouncing here and there and everywhere. And it's really one of my favorite shows. They did a fantastic job of it. I was unaware that they were ever in a comic book ever. And Topher, apparently, he even mentioned, he's like, I've already been thinking about this, but Comic Tom kind of forced my hand and I had to mention it. First appearance of the Gummy Bears is in Topolino 1618, which is like an Italian comic book. And they're on the cover. I mean, it's very clearly
them.
The Gummy Bears. I never even knew this existed.
We have people who have reached out asking us to cover foreign comics, and I'm not as well versed in them. And I feel like really it's going to be a CBSI article where they're just going to like put together a ton of information that's going to be super enlightening eventually. Let's get on that. But foreign comic books, here's an example of a foreign comic book that's a first appearance. Like it does happen. We also had that Alias make the list, the Jennifer Gardner Alias appearance that was in a foreign comic before it ever made comic books.
Right, and when we know Dime Press 4 for the Italian Hellboy. I mean,
Yeah.
early stuff. But then we have Gummy Bear's first U.S. appearance in Autumn Adventures #2. And you know what's on my search list now? Autumn Adventures #2. I need a copy of this. Although if anyone has one and is willing to send it in, we do have a P.O. box down below, and I would love to see this. I would add this to my personal collection. This is something that I'm really super excited to find. I'm going to have to hunt for this after the show.
I like it. I have actually the next one on this list. This is another one for us. This isn't for the comic fan. I know the comic fan could care less about gummy bears, but you know what? The next one on this list, maybe they will care about. We have the first appearance of Vanilla Ice in comic books, ladies and gentlemen. We have Rock and Roll Comics issue number 31. First appearance of Vanilla Ice on a cover. And it was a comment I made off the cuff in the last video, and Topher he had to bring it home.
He just found the first appearance of Vanilla Ice. Now, Rock and Roll Comics, Revolutionary Comics, and Personality Comics are 3 printing presses that made these unauthorized comics. And Revolutionary ended up doing, again, it was more like behind the scenes controversy type stuff. They were talking about, the Beatles
drama
and
and stuff.
absolutely. And Personality was definitely more of like Star Trek. You have the Jean-Luc Picard version. Tanya Harding comic, like really obscure stuff. But the Rock and Roll Comics, I know they had Guns N' Roses and they had Metallica and they had, all of the ones that you would expect. And then kind of they started doing New Kids on the Block and they started like running off the rails. And now all of a sudden you have Vanilla Ice. And I mean, Robert Van Winkle, whose birthday happens to be on October 31st and has a tattoo of a pumpkin. And I only know this because I watched The Surreal Life. And I was a fan because, we already talked about that one. But Vanilla Ice comic book. I can only imagine how awful.
All right. So here's the thing that I do like to point out, because we're going to have a video coming out all about video games and comics, because I've mentioned before, video games and comics. I've mentioned before wrestling and comics. Like these are hobbies. These are fandoms that like to cross over. Music and comic books have crossed over. And I know there's a lot of members in the comic fam who have the hip hop variants. There's a lot of really good music themed comic books.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Shout out to the Ed Piskor History of Hip Hop comics that came out. It's a fantastic read. And he's doing the Grand Design, another banger. That's definitely a lot of people who've gotten that. They're already raving about it. And this is one that down the road, people are going to go, this is like one of the best comic book series ever written. But anyways, Ed Piskor's awesome. But we have music in comic books. This was at a time where there weren't like ongoing magazines that were really providing you with the detail of like rock and roll bands. Like what was going on with Metallica during these, during that time. And they used comic books to tell a lot of these stories.
And understand that honestly, that a lot of time when this came out in 1988, 89, and 90, it wasn't like you just went to the internet and went to Wiki and all of the above. I mean, if you had internet access, you're looking like bulletin board systems. You have to program an ASCII. You have to dial up with your modem and like use command prompts. I mean, really, honestly, this was not at your fingertips where I can pick up my phone and go Vanilla Ice comic book and just have it immediately. So that was the information we had, and people were voracious. They were picking up these underground, unauthorized comic books just to find out more about these people.
Yeah, got to find out about Lars and his tennis playing. All right, we got to move on and talk about some more Hawkeye. Ronan's been causing a ruckus on all the lists we've been talking about, but now we have word that Hawkeye may be getting his own series.
Which would be very, very cool. And if Hawkeye happens to get his own series, I hope we end up seeing his brother.
I'm thinking that this actually may be a really good speculation bet. I don't like to talk a whole lot about speculation. I like to talk about comic books that I'm interested in, that I think I would want if I was a collector of that character.
Right.
And this particular character has a family, and even family members are villains and family members are heroes. So there's a lot to speculate on. But one character in particular that's being specced on is Charles Barton, the brother of Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Now, he first appeared in Avengers 64. Shout out to the Google Plus member. I want to make sure to say his name right here. We have Jonathan M. who pointed that out. Thank you. And Avengers 64, first appearance of a minor character who will later take the role as Trickshot. Trickshot is a villain who Charles actually becomes Trickshot in Hawkeye Blind Spot #1, a modern comic book that's very attainable. So you have two comic books right there that kind of focus on this villain that I think has a really good chance of being in some type of Marvel Cinematic Universe, especially because he's from Earth 616.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that they are brothers and this is the actual normal continuity line Earth, there's a very good chance we're going to see something with him in it.
All right. And then there's another character who takes the role, the mantle of Trickshot. And it's a different character, but we're going to mention him because we're talking about Trickshot. Hawkeye, issue #1, The Solo Adventures. Now, although a different version of the villain, take a look at this issue #5 where he makes the cover. Another version, but one we got to mention for the comic book fam.
Definitely.
We do appreciate your time today. Thank you so much again to CBSI, comicbookinvest.com, making our videos so much fun to do, talking about all these true firsts, causing a ruckus in the community. Let's give some shout outs to some members before we end this video.
A lot of great hunting out there this week. We have Al Pickno, who got a bunch of Web Spidey goodness. Number 90 and 100. They're looking so shiny. I'm sure he's fixing his hair in those right now.
That's right. Oh, and we also have Ink Pit Tattoo Studios, who picked up 3 copies of Web of Spidey number 90.
Make Mine Moon Knight, Web Spider-Man number 90 as well.
Then we have Jar Jar Comics, who got a whole set of all those hologram covers. He got the Spidey 2099. He got the red cover. You got to get that poster. You got to get the poster, as well as that awesome blue cover and that first armor appearance on the green. But you know what? Special shout out goes to Emperors_Collectibles, because we did that Black Knight True First video. Now, it's impossible to know everything about every Marvel superhero.
Oh, yeah.
It's countless superheroes. Like, there's so many. There's so many. So we had to do a lot of research. We had to kind of like brush up on some characters we didn't really know.
Right.
And I just was super excited to see Emperor Collectibles post his Black Knight action figure in front of his Avengers 47 as well as 48, because that told me that this is a Black Knight collector. He knows what he's doing. And when I scrolled on that Instagram post, I saw that Black Knight Tales to Astonish 52, and I saw the Black Knight 17, 2 issues that we brought up in the list. He got those before we made the list. So as a Black Knight collector, he thought those issues were worth owning.
That's so great. And it's just really, really cool to see how many super collectors there are out there and how many people that are already collecting this stuff. It's really, really great.
Does it kind of like validate a little bit of the books we choose when stuff like that happens? So please
definitely.
continue to tag us on Instagram. You know where to find us. And like and subscribe the video, please. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. We'd love to have you on because we talk a lot about comic books.
We really, really do. And as always, geek responsibly.
Enough said. Thanks so much for watching the video. Hit the description to sign up to our mystery mail call, our comic book subscription service where we send you comics every month. Ooh, and you can click this link right here. That's our playlist to all of our other True First videos. If you like this one, you can watch more.